The alarm screamed through the corridor, and Ho knew they were going to die. His boots hammered against the metal floor as he ran behind his squad. The research ship was supposed to be lightly guarded. Intelligence had been wrong. Intelligence was always wrong. "Move, move, move," Sergeant 1 shouted ahead of him. Plasma fire burned past Ho's shoulder, so close he felt the heat through his armor. He fired back without looking, just pointing his rifle behind him and pulling the trigger. The humans had learned early in the war that you didn't need to aim perfectly. You just needed to make the enemy think twice about chasing you. Ho had been fighting for 6 years. He was 28 years old and felt like he was 60. Every soldier in the war felt that way. When you fought an enemy that was smarter, faster, and had better weapons, you aged quickly. The mission had been simple: board the medical research vessel, steal data about biology, get out. But the ship had been a trap, and now his squad of 12 was down to 6. "Engineering bay 30 meters, someone yelled. Ho's lungs burned. His armor was heavy. The human suits were tough but clunky compared to the sleek gear. Everything humanity built was like that, rough, crude, but it worked. That was the human way. Make it simple, make it strong, make it survive. They burst through a doorway into a massive chamber filled with strange equipment. Ho didn't understand half of what he saw. Tubes filled with glowing liquid. Machines that hummed with energy. They were hundreds of years ahead of humanity in technology. The only reason humans were still alive was because they were too stubborn to quit. "Seal the door," one ordered. 2 soldiers rushed to the control panel. Ho covered them, his rifle aimed at the corridor they just escaped from. He could hear the coming. They moved differently than humans. Their footsteps were lighter, quicker, like predators. The door started to close. Ho allowed himself 1 second to hope they might make it. That was when the grenade came through the gap. It wasn't like a human grenade. It didn't explode with fire and metal. Instead, it released a cloud of green gas that spread through the room in seconds. Ho's helmet filters kicked in immediately, but he'd already breathed some of it in. "Gas bioweapon," someone screamed. Ho felt it instantly. His skin started burning, not hot burning like fire. Cold burning like ice was forming in his veins. He looked down at his hands and saw his skin turning gray. Fall back to the extraction point." One was shouting, but his voice sounded distant. Ho tried to run, but his legs wouldn't work properly. He stumbled and fell. His rifle clattered away from him. Around him, he saw his squad running for another exit. They were leaving him. He didn't blame them. In war, you saved who you could save. You didn't die for corpses. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was one looking back, face twisted with pain behind his helmet. Then the sergeant turned and ran. Ho understood. He would have done the same thing. When Ho woke up, he thought he was dead. The room was completely white. The light was soft and even, coming from everywhere and nowhere. He was lying on something comfortable, too comfortable. Human military beds felt like sleeping on rocks. He tried to sit up and nearly screamed. Pain shot through his entire body. Looking down, he saw that his uniform was gone. He wore a simple white gown. His arms were covered in strange gray marks, like someone had drawn on him with ash. "Do not move quickly. Your cellular structure is compromised." The voice came from beside his bed. Ho turned his head and his heart stopped. Stood there. He'd seen them before, but only through rifle sights or in propaganda videos. Up close, they were beautiful in a way that made his human brain confused. Her skin was silver, perfectly smooth, and seemed to shimmer with its own light. Her eyes were large and completely silver, like pools of liquid metal. She had no hair, but her head was elegant and shaped differently than a human's. She wore a white coat that seemed to be made of material that flowed like water. Ho tried to reach for a weapon that wasn't there, that didn't move. "I am Dr. Lyra," she said. Her voice was musical, each word perfectly pronounced. "You are aboard the medical research vessel Synthesis. You were exposed to Compound 17. Your squad abandoned you 4 hours ago." Ho's mind raced. He was a prisoner. They would torture him for information. Then they would kill him. That was how war worked. "How long do I have?" he asked. His voice was rough, barely more than a whisper. Lyra tilted her head in a gesture that seemed curious. "You understand that you are dying." "I saw what that gas did to my skin. I felt it in my blood. I'm not stupid." "No," Lyra agreed. "You are not stupid. According to our analysis, you have between 60 and 70 hours before complete cellular breakdown. Your species has remarkable resilience, but this weapon was designed to be absolutely fatal." Ho laughed. It hurt, but he laughed anyway. 3 days. Well, that's 3 more days than most humans get in this war. Lyra moved closer. Her silver eyes studied him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "You are not afraid." "I'm terrified," Ho said honestly. "But fear doesn't change anything. I'm dead either way." "This is illogical. Fear is an appropriate response to death." "Maybe for your people. Humans learned a long time ago that logic doesn't keep you alive. Stubbornness does." Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something Ho never expected. She pulled up a chair and sat down beside his bed. "I have been studying human biology for 3 years," she said. "Your species should not exist. Your DNA is chaotic. Your cells mutate constantly. Your bodies are fragile and prone to failure. By all logical standards, humans should have died out millions of years ago." "Thanks for the encouragement, Doc." "And yet," Lyra continued, ignoring his sarcasm, "you survive. You adapt. You endure conditions that would kill any other species. I do not understand it." Ho looked at her, really looked at her. She wasn't interrogating him. She wasn't threatening him. She seemed genuinely curious. "You want to know the secret?" he asked. "Yes." "We're too stupid to know when to give up." Lyra's head tilted again. "That is not logical." "Exactly." For the first time in 6 years of war, Ho saw something impossible. The doctor's lips curved slightly. It wasn't quite a smile. Her species didn't smile the way humans did, but it was close. "I am going to attempt to save your life," Lyra said. "Why?" "Because you interest me, and because wasting potential data would be illogical." Ho didn't believe her, but he was dying anyway, so what did it matter? He closed his eyes and let the darkness take him again. He didn't see Lyra sit there for another hour, watching him breathe. Her silver eyes filled with something that No was supposed to feel. Curiosity. 5 days later, Ho was still alive. He wasn't supposed to be. Lyra had told him 3 days, maybe 4 if he was lucky. But here he was on day 5, lying in the same white room, still breathing. It hurt. Every breath felt like swallowing broken glass. His skin had turned completely gray now, with dark veins spreading across his chest and arms like cracks in stone. But he was alive, and that confused everyone, especially Lyra. She came to check on him every few hours. Sometimes she brought machines that scanned his body with lights and sounds. Sometimes she just sat and watched him, her silver eyes unreadable. Ho had learned that didn't show emotion the way humans did. Everything they did was controlled, logical, precise. "Your cellular degradation has slowed," Lyra said during one of her visits. She was looking at a screen that floated in the air, showing images of his body that Ho didn't understand. "This should not be possible." "Sorry to mess up your data," Ho said. His voice was getting weaker. He could feel his body failing, even if it was doing it slowly. Lyra looked at him. "You are not sorry. You are pleased that you are defying expectations." "Damn right I am. Humans are good at not dying when we're supposed to." "Why?" The question caught Ho off guard. "Why what?" "Why do humans fight so hard to survive? Your species knows it is outmatched in this war. You know that the Empire has superior technology, superior tactics, superior numbers. Logic dictates that you should surrender, yet you do not. Why? Ho thought about it. No one had ever asked him that before. You didn't question why you fought, you just fought. Because if we surrender, we're not free anymore, he said finally. And humans need to be free more than we need to be alive. It's just how we're built. Lyra was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that surprised him. I do not understand freedom. In society, everyone has a role. Everyone follows the path they are designed for. I am a medical researcher. I will always be a medical researcher. This is logical. This is efficient. Why would I want anything different? Do you ever wonder what else you could be? No, that would be illogical. Sounds boring. Lyra's head tilted. Boredom is an emotional response. Emotions are inefficient. Emotions are what make life worth living, Doc. That is irrational. Yep, welcome to being human. Over the next 3 days, Ho noticed changes in Lyra, small things. She started asking him more questions, not about military secrets or human tactics. She asked about Earth, about music, about food, about things that had nothing to do with the war. Ho told her about rain. The home world didn't have rain like Earth did. He described the smell of wet pavement, the sound of drops on a roof, the way rain made everything clean. Lyra listened like he was describing miracles. He told her about his mother's cooking, about sitting around a table with family, arguing and laughing and being loud. Lyra had no family. Were grown in facilities, designed for specific purposes. The idea of sitting together to eat just for enjoyment made no sense to her. It is wasteful, she said. Eating should be efficient. It's not about the food, Doc. It's about being together, about being human. I do not understand. I know, that's why you're losing the war. Lyra looked at him sharply. Explain. You are smarter than us, stronger than us, better at everything, but you don't understand why we fight. You don't understand that humans don't follow logic, we follow hope. And hope doesn't make sense, but it keeps us going when logic says we should quit. On the 8th day, Lyra came to his room in the middle of the night. Ho was awake. He didn't sleep much anymore. The pain was getting worse. She looked different. Her movements were less precise. Her silver eyes seemed troubled, though Ho didn't know if could feel troubled. I have been conducting unauthorized research, she said quietly, using equipment and resources that were not assigned to me. You're going to get in trouble. In society, unauthorized behavior is considered a sign of mental corruption. I could be sent for behavioral correction. Ho knew what that meant. The humans had intercepted communications before. Behavioral correction was what they did to who started thinking differently. It was like lobotomy but worse. They didn't kill you. They just killed everything that made you, you. Then why risk it? Lyra sat down in her usual chair beside his bed. Because I have discovered something extraordinary. Your DNA contains a factor that we do not possess, a chaos element. Your cells mutate and adapt constantly, randomly. This is why you have survived longer than predicted. Your body is trying to fight the compound, even though it cannot win. So I'm dying slower, great. I can save you. Ho's heart skipped. What? The compound is breaking down your human cells. But if I could introduce a stabilizing factor, something to slow the chaos while maintaining the adaptability, your body might heal itself. I have run the calculations. It is possible. Then do it. Lyra looked down at her hands. There is a problem. The stabilizing factor must come from DNA, but our species are incompatible. I cannot simply give you cells. They would reject your system entirely. So what are you saying? I would need to create a hybrid serum, something that combines human and genetic material. To do this, I would need to inject myself with your DNA first, allow it to partially convert my own cells, then use my transformed blood to create the treatment for you. Ho stared at her. You're saying you'd make yourself part human. Yes. Why would you do that? You said mixing species is forbidden in your society. It is the highest taboo. Any who undergoes genetic alteration is considered corrupted. They are executed immediately. If I do this, I can never return to space. I can never resume my life. I will be hunted by my own people. Then don't do it. I'm not worth your whole life, Doc. Lyra stood up. She walked to the window that looked out into space. Stars glittered against the black. For 8 days I have listened to you speak about freedom, about hope, about choices. These concepts were meaningless to me before, but now when I think about my life, about following the path designed for me, about never questioning, never wondering, never choosing, I realize I do not want that anymore. She turned back to him. In her hands was a syringe filled with his blood and a device that glowed with soft blue light. You have shown me what it means to live instead of simply exist. You have shown me that chaos and illogic and hope are not weaknesses. They are what make life beautiful. I do not want to go back to a life without beauty. Lyra, don't. My people believe that chaos is death. That order is the only way to survive, but you have proven them wrong. You should be dead. Logic says you should be dead, but you are alive because you refuse to accept what logic dictates. This is extraordinary. This is wonderful. This is what I want to be. She pressed the device against her arm. Wait, Ho tried to sit up, but his body was too weak. You don't have to do this. Lyra looked at him, and for the first time he saw something in her silver eyes that looked almost human. It looked like determination. It looked like choice. Yes, she said quietly, I do, because you taught me the most important thing humans know. Sometimes the illogical choice is the right one. She injected herself. Ho watched in horror as Lyra's silver skin began to change. Dark lines appeared under her skin, spreading like the ones on his body. She gasped, and the sound was painful to hear. Her perfect control shattered. She fell to her knees. Lyra. She held up a hand, stopping him from trying to get up. Her body was shaking. The silver of her skin was becoming duller, touched with hints of color. Her eyes flickered, the liquid metal surface rippling with new patterns. Minutes passed. Ho could only watch, helpless, as she fought through the transformation. Finally, she stood up. She was breathing hard, something rarely did. Her skin was no longer pure silver. It had taken on a faint bronze tint. Her eyes still glowed, but now they had depths to them, shadows and lights that shifted with her thoughts. She looked at her hands and whispered something in her own language. Then she looked at Ho. I can feel it, she said, and her voice was different now. Less musical, more rough, more human. I can feel everything. Tears ran down her face. Didn't cry, but she wasn't fully anymore. What did you give up? Ho asked quietly. Lyra smiled. It was a real smile this time, shaky and imperfect and beautiful. Everything, she said, and it was worth it. The alarm started screaming 2 hours after Lyra transformed herself. Ho was sitting up in bed for the first time in days. Lyra had given him the hybrid serum and he could already feel it working. The pain was fatting. The gray was slowly disappearing from his skin. He still felt weak, but he was healing. Lyra was at the computer terminal, moving faster than before. Her transformation had changed more than just her appearance. She moved with a new kind of energy, less precise but more alive. They know, she said, her voice tight with something Ho recognized. Fear. She was feeling fear now. Know what? What I have done. The medical monitoring systems detected the genetic changes in my body. I am registered as corrupted. The ship's security forces are coming. Ho pushed himself out of bed. His legs shook, but they held. Can you lock the door? I already did. It will hold for perhaps 5 minutes. Ho, you do not understand. They will not arrest me. They will not question me. They will kill me on sight, and they will kill you for being the source of corruption. Then we need to get off this ship. Lyra looked at him like he was crazy. This vessel has 400 crew members. Security teams are already moving through the corridors. We are 3 decks away from the nearest escape pod bay. We have no weapons. You can barely walk. This is impossible. Ho managed a weak grin. Doc, you really need to learn more about humans. Impossible just means it hasn't been done yet. The door shook as something heavy slammed against it. Movement now, Ho said. Lyra hesitated for only a second. Then her new hybrid instincts kicked in, and she moved. She helped Ho to his feet and pulled him toward a secondary door he hadn't noticed before. Medical supply access, she explained. It connects to the maintenance tunnels. They stumbled into a narrow corridor lined with pipes and cables. The lighting was dim. Ho could hear the main door to the medical room breaking behind them. Which way to the escape pods? He asked. Lyra closed her eyes for a moment. Ho realized she was accessing the ship's layout from memory, had perfect recall. He hoped that ability had survived her transformation. Left, then down 3 levels, then across the engineering section. That's where I got gassed. I know. It is the only route not covered by security checkpoints. They moved as quickly as Ho's weakened body allowed. Behind them, he could hear voices shouting in the language. He didn't understand the words, but the tone was clear. They were hunting. The maintenance tunnels were a maze. Lyra led them through turns and hatches, sometimes climbing down ladders that made Ho's arms scream with effort. She kept checking back, making sure he was still moving. I am slowing you down, Ho said during a brief rest. You could make it alone. Lyra looked at him with those changed eyes, silver swirling with new colors. No, you gave me the gift of choice. I choose not to leave you. They kept moving. The engineering section was chaos. Alarms were blaring. Crew members were running everywhere. Ho and Lyra pressed themselves into shadows, moving along the walls. The crew members passed within meters of them, but they were focused on their tasks. They are preparing for a full ship lockdown, Lyra whispered. Once that happens, every door will seal. We will be trapped. How long? Minutes, perhaps less. A voice rang out behind them in the language. Ho didn't need to understand the words. He knew what discovery sounded like. Run, Lyra shouted. They ran. Ho's body protested every step, but fear gave him strength. Plasma fire burned through the air, striking the walls around them. They were shooting to kill. Lyra pulled him around a corner, and suddenly they were in a wide bay filled with small pod-shaped vessels. Escape pods. Dozens of them lined the walls. There, Lyra pointed to the nearest one. They sprinted across the open space. Ho could hear boots behind them. More shouts. He didn't look back. Lyra slammed her hand on the pod's access panel. Nothing happened. My authorization codes have been revoked, she said, panic creeping into her voice. Move, Ho said. He grabbed a piece of metal debris from the floor and smashed it against the control panel. Sparks flew. The pod door hissed open. That works too, Lyra muttered. They dove inside. The pod was small, barely enough room for 2 people. Ho fell into one seat while Lyra threw herself into the other and started hitting controls. Plasma fire struck the pod's hull. The entire vessel shook. Launch now, Ho yelled. I am trying. The manual override requires. More plasma fire. The pod's shields flared, struggling to absorb the impact. Lyra's hands flew over the controls. Ho saw her doing something he'd never seen her do before. She was improvising. The perfect logical precision was gone, replaced with desperate creativity. The pod shot forward. They blasted out of the ship's bay and into open space. Behind them, Ho could see the massive research vessel growing smaller. Smaller ships were launching from it, fighters, coming after them. They really want you dead, he said. Us, Lyra corrected. They want us dead. She was right. He was the source of her corruption. They would both be executed if caught. The pod shook as enemy fire clipped their shields. Warning lights flashed on the control panel. "Shields at 40%, Lyra said. She was working the controls, trying to avoid the incoming fire, but the pod was small and slow compared to the fighters chasing them. "Where are we going?" Ho asked. "Human space is in that direction," Lyra pointed. "The nearest outpost is called Frontier 9. It will take approximately 4 hours at our current speed." "We won't last 4 hours against those fighters." Another hit. The pod spun. Lyra fought to control it, her hybrid reflexes faster than pure but not as fast as she needed. "Shields at 20%, she said. Ho looked at the control panel. He didn't understand most of it, but he recognized the power distribution system. It was similar to human designs in concept if not in execution. "Divert all non-essential power to shields and engines," he said. "That includes life support. We can hold our breath for a few minutes if it means surviving." Lyra's fingers moved. The pod lurched forward with new speed. The lights dimmed as power redirected. The fighters fired again, but this time the shields held. They were pulling away. "It is working," Lyra said, and there was hope in her voice. Real hope, emotional and illogical and beautiful. They flew in silence for several minutes, the enemy fighters falling behind. Ho let himself believe they might actually make it. That was when the fighter got a lucky shot. The plasma bolt punched through their weakened shields and struck the pod's engine. The entire vessel shook violently. Sparks exploded from the control panel. "We are losing power," Lyra shouted over the alarms. "Can you keep us moving?" "Yes, but barely. We are venting fuel. We will not make it to the human outpost." Ho looked at the scanner. The fighters were turning back, probably thinking the damaged pod would drift until it ran out of air. They weren't wrong. "How far can we get?" Lyra checked the calculations. "Perhaps halfway, then we will be stranded." "Better than dead, keep going." They limped through space, the pod systems failing one by one. The temperature dropped as the heating failed. Their breath started showing as frost in the air. Ho felt weak again. The healing serum had given him strength, but it was fading. He was still injured, still recovering. His body couldn't take much more. Lyra looked over at him. She reached out and took his hand. Her skin was cold now, no longer silver but touched with the pale color of human skin in the cold. "I am sorry," she said quietly. "For what?" "I saved your life only to doom us both." Ho squeezed her hand. It was shaking. She was feeling fear again, and cold, and pain, all the things she'd never felt before. "You didn't doom us, you freed us, both of us. We are dying." "Maybe, but we're dying free. That's more than a lot of people get." Lyra smiled, that imperfect human smile. Tears froze on her cheeks. "Yes," she whispered, "free." The pod drifted in the dark. Behind them, they had given up the chase. Ahead of them, human space was still too far away. Ho closed his eyes. If this was the end, at least it was an ending he chose. At least he wasn't dying alone. Lyra's hand stayed in his, warm despite the cold. No, not just warm, warming. He could feel heat spreading from where they touched. He opened his eyes and looked at her. Her hybrid body was glowing faintly, silver light mixed with something else, something human. "What are you doing?" "My body is generating heat. It is trying to keep us alive. I do not know if it will be enough." "Doc, you're amazing." "I am terrified." "That's part of being human. You're doing great." They held each other in the darkness, two beings who should have been enemies, who should never have met, who had sacrificed everything to save each other. And in the cold silence of space, they waited to see if anyone would find them before the air ran out. The human patrol ship found them 3 hours later, just before the oxygen ran out. Ho woke up in a medical bay, breathing recycled air that smelled like oil and metal and home. Human smells. He was on a human ship. Easy there, Corporal. A medic pressed him back down onto the bed. You've been through hell and back. Lyra, Ho croaked. Where is she? The medic's expression changed. She's in a holding cell. Don't worry, she can't hurt anyone now. Ho tried to sit up. No, you don't understand. She saved my life, she's not. Rest, Corporal. Admiral Park wants to speak with you when you're strong enough. You're at Frontier 9 now. You're safe. Safe, the word felt wrong. Ho closed his eyes and tried to think. He'd been rescued, that was good, but Lyra was in a cell, that was very bad. It took him 2 days to recover enough strength to walk. The moment he could stand, he demanded to see Admiral Park. The guards tried to make him rest more, but Ho had spent 6 years in the military. He knew how to be stubborn enough that people gave in just to make him stop. Admiral Park was a woman in her 50s with gray hair pulled tight and eyes that had seen too many battles. Her office was simple and practical, like everything else on the station. No decorations, no comfort, just function. Corporal Ho, she said, looking at his file on her desk screen. Officially listed as killed in action 8 days ago. Your squad reported you dead, and yet here you are. Yes, ma'am. With a doctor who apparently went insane and experimented on herself with human DNA. That's not what happened, ma'am. Admiral Park leaned back in her chair. Then explain it to me, Corporal, because right now I have a war to fight and you've brought me a problem I don't need. Ho told her everything. The gas attack, waking up in Lyra's medical bay, how she had studied him, talked to him, and ultimately sacrificed her entire life to save him, how they had escaped together. The Admiral listened without interrupting. When Ho finished, she was quiet for a long time. That's quite a story, Corporal. It's the truth, ma'am. I believe you, but belief doesn't change our situation. She stood and walked to the window that looked out into space. Do you know what military intelligence wants to do with your doctor friend? Sir. They want to dissect her. Not kill her, that would be wasteful. They want to study her. Figure out how human and DNA can combine. Use that knowledge to make weapons, better bioweapons, maybe even create hybrid soldiers. Ho felt sick. You can't let them do that. I'm a military officer, Corporal. My job is to win this war. If that hybrid could help us do that, I should hand her over. She's not a thing, she's a person. She gave up everything to save me. Admiral Park turned to face him. I know, and that's the problem, because if I release her, where does she go? They will kill her for being corrupted, and our own people. She shook her head. You've seen the propaganda, Corporal. Humanity has been fighting them for 30 years. People hate them. If I let her walk around this station, someone will try to kill her just for being what she is. So what are you saying? I'm saying that sometimes doing the right thing is impossible. I'm saying that your doctor friend has no home anywhere in the galaxy. Ho clenched his fists. There has to be something we can do. Before the Admiral could answer, the door burst open. A young soldier rushed in, out of breath. Admiral, sorry to interrupt, but there's a situation. One of the Corporal's former squad mates is demanding to see him. Private. He's making quite a scene. Admiral Park sighed. Send him in. Entered a moment later. He was younger than Ho, barely 22, with a burn scar across his left cheek from a plasma weapon. When he saw Ho, his eyes went wide. You're alive, whispered. We thought. Sergeant one said you were dead, said there was no way to save you. He was right, there wasn't, not with human medicine. His face twisted with emotion. Anger, relief, guilt, all fighting for control. We left you. I wanted to go back, but one said it was suicide, said the gas would kill anyone who tried to help you. He was right about that too. I don't blame any of you. Then how are you here? A doctor saved me. His expression darkened immediately. Oh, where is it? I'll kill it myself for what they did to you. Stand down, Private, Admiral Park ordered sharply. She saved my life, Ho said quietly. She risked everything to help me, and now our people want to cut her apart like she's some kind of science experiment. Looked between Ho and the Admiral, confused. I don't understand. The doctor altered her own genetics with human DNA, the Admiral explained. She's a hybrid now. Intelligence thinks she could be useful for research. And you want to help her? Asked Ho. She stood by my bed and chose to save me when she could have let me die. She gave up everything, her job, her people, her entire life. Yes, I want to help her. Was quiet. Ho could see the war happening behind his eyes. 30 years of propaganda versus loyalty to a fellow soldier. Finally spoke, what do you need? Access to the detention level. I need to see her. I can get you that, said. Then he looked at the Admiral. Ma'am, respectfully, if this doctor really saved Ho's life, then she's done more for humanity than half the officers on the station. Seems wrong to repay her by treating her like a lab animal. Admiral Park studied both of them. Then she nodded slowly. You have 6 hours, Corporal. Talk to your doctor friend. Find out if she has any information that could help us end this war without anyone else dying. And find out what she wants. What she wants, ma'am. Everyone wants something, Corporal. Even, apparently. Especially ones who are becoming more human. The detention level was cold and sterile. Lyra's cell was at the end of a long corridor, separated from the others. Through the transparent wall, Ho could see her sitting on a simple bench, her changed body glowing faintly in the dim light. When she saw him, she stood up quickly. The movement was graceful but also clumsy, like she was still learning how to control her hybrid body. Ho, you are well. Thanks to you. Lyra, I'm sorry you're locked up like this. It is logical. I am an enemy combatant in human space, and I am genetically altered, which makes me dangerous and unpredictable. You're not dangerous. Lyra smiled sadly. I am actually. My body is still changing, I can feel it. I am becoming something new, something that has never existed before. I do not know what I am capable of. Ho moved closer to the cell wall. Admiral Park asked me to find out if you have information that could help end the war. I do. I brought research data with me, complete genetic profiles of both our species, medical advances, biological compatibility studies, information that could revolutionize medicine for both humans and... Then why didn't you tell them? Because I do not trust them. I do not trust anyone except you. Her silver bronze eyes met his. You are the only person in the entire galaxy who sees me as a person instead of a weapon or a specimen. Ho's heart ached. The Admiral wants to know what you want. Lyra laughed, but it sounded broken. What I want? I want to go back to my old life before I knew that freedom and choice existed. I want to be ignorant again. But that is impossible. You showed me what life could be, and now I can never forget. What do you really want, Lyra? She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. I want to choose my own path. I want to use my knowledge to help people instead of harm them. I want to live somewhere where I am not hunted by or imprisoned by humans. I want, she paused. I want what you taught me was possible. I want to be free. Ho looked at her. This being who was neither nor human, who had sacrificed everything for him, who glowed with the light of 2 species combined. Then we'll find a way, he said. I promise. How? There is nowhere in the galaxy for someone like me. Then we'll make a place, somewhere new, somewhere for people who don't fit anywhere else. Lyra pressed her hand against the cell wall. Ho pressed his against the other side. The barrier between them felt like everything wrong with the galaxy, invisible walls built by fear and hate and war. Is that possible? Lyra asked. I don't know, but 6 years ago I thought surviving this war was impossible. A week ago I thought surviving that bioweapon was impossible. Yesterday I thought escaping that ship was impossible, and yet here we are. Because you are too stubborn to accept the impossible. Exactly. And now you're part human, which means you're stubborn too. For the first time since being locked up, Lyra laughed. It was a real laugh, full and genuine and free. Yes, she said, I suppose I am. Outside the cell waited, he'd heard everything. When Ho came out, the young soldier looked thoughtful. She doesn't sound like a monster, said quietly. She's not. She's just someone who wanted to help and got punished for it. That's messed up. Yeah, welcome to war. It's all messed up. They walked back through the station in silence, but Ho's mind was racing. Lyra had information that could help both species. She had become something new, something that proved humans and weren't as different as everyone thought. Maybe, just maybe, she was the key to ending this war. Not through weapons or violence, but through hope. The most human thing of all. The escape happened at midnight, station time. Ho had spent 3 days planning, had helped, along with 2 other soldiers from his old squad who remembered how Ho had always watched their backs. Admiral Park had turned a blind eye, though she never said so directly. Some orders were best left unspoken. They took a small transport ship, the kind used for supply runs to remote outposts. It was old and slow, but it was fast enough to get them away from Frontier 9 before anyone officially noticed. Lyra sat in the co-pilot seat, her hybrid body glowing softly in the ship's dim lights. She was still changing. Her skin shifted between silver and bronze depending on her emotions. Her eyes had developed pupils now, dark centers in pools of liquid metal. Where are we going? She asked. Ho checked the navigation charts. There's a world called Haven. It's in neutral space, outside both the Terran Coalition and the Empire. No government, no military, just people who got tired of the war and walked away. Deserters. Survivors, there's a difference. They flew for 2 days, staying off the main shipping routes. Twice they picked up signals from patrol ships, but they were far enough away that no one investigated a single small transport. Lyra spent the time going through the research data she had saved. She explained it to Ho in simple terms, pointing at screens filled with genetic sequences and medical formulas. This information shows that humans share more genetic compatibility than anyone thought possible. Our DNA structures are different, yes, but not opposite. More like mirror images. What my people see as chaos, you see as adaptation. What you see as rigidity, we see as stability. So we're 2 sides of the same coin. Perhaps we are meant to balance each other, your chaos tempered by our order enlivened by your chaos. She touched her own arm where silver met bronze, like this. Could this really end the war? Lyra was quiet for a moment. It could, if both sides were willing to see past 30 years of hatred, if they were willing to understand that we are not so different. But Ho, changing hearts is harder than changing genetics. Maybe, but we have to try. When Haven appeared on their screens, Ho understood why people came here. The planet was beautiful, green and blue and covered in clouds that looked like Earth's. It orbited a gentle yellow sun in a system with no strategic value, no resources worth fighting over, no reason for either side to care about it. Perfect. They landed at a small settlement near the equator. Buildings made from local materials clustered around a central square. Ho counted maybe 200 people moving through the streets. Some were human, some were other species. A few looked like they might be, though it was hard to tell from a distance. As they walked down the transport's ramp, people stopped to stare. Ho in his worn military gear, Lyra in her simple white medical clothes, her hybrid nature obvious to anyone who looked. An old woman approached them. She had gray hair and kind eyes. New arrivals. Yes, ma'am, Ho said. We're looking for a place to stay. The woman looked at Lyra, really looked at her. Then she smiled. Hybrid, huh? You're not the first. Won't be the last. Welcome to Haven. I'm Dr. Nayung. I run the medical clinic. I am Dr. Lyra. I am also a physician. Well then, looks like I just found help. We've been overwhelmed lately. More refugees every week. Nayung gestured toward the settlement. Come on, I'll show you around. Haven was simple but alive. People had built homes, farms, shops. There was a school for children, a communal dining hall, gardens that produced food. It wasn't advanced or technological. It was just life. Lyra stared at everything with wonder. They are not fighting. Why would they fight? Nayung asked. They came here to get away from fighting. But there are humans in here, together. And a dozen other species. Yes, we all got tired of killing each other, so we stopped. It cannot be that simple. Nayung laughed. It's not simple at all. We argue, we disagree. Sometimes people leave because they can't let go of the hate, but most of us stay, because this, she gestured around at the peaceful settlement, this is worth more than all the battles we left behind. Over the following weeks, Ho and Lyra settled into Haven. Lyra joined Nayung at the medical clinic. Her knowledge of both human and medicine made her invaluable. She could treat patients that no single species doctor could help. Ho helped with construction, using his engineering skills to improve the settlement's infrastructure. He taught others how to build stronger shelters, more efficient water systems. Skills learned in war, now used for peace. At night, they shared a small home on the edge of the settlement. It had 2 rooms and a window that looked out over fields where crops grew under alien stars. I never imagined this, Lyra said one evening. They were sitting outside, watching the sunset. The sky turned colors that existed on neither Earth nor the. Imagined what? Peace, belonging, purpose that does not involve orders or research quotas or serving an empire. She turned to look at him. Happiness. Ho took her hand. Her skin was warm now, always warm. The hybrid transformation had stabilized. She was something new, something unique, something beautiful. I'm glad you chose me, he said quietly. I chose freedom. You showed me it was possible. Same thing. She smiled and rested her head on his shoulder. They sat in comfortable silence as the stars came out. 3 months after they arrived, Lyra made a decision. I want to release my research data, she told Ho. They were in the clinic organizing medical supplies, not to the military, to everyone. Scientists, doctors, researchers on both sides. Let them see what I discovered. Let them know that genetic cooperation is possible. The military will try to weaponize it. Perhaps, but knowledge belongs to everyone, not just those who would use it for war. If even one person uses this data to save lives instead of taking them, it will be worth the risk. Ho thought about it. Okay, but we do it anonymously. We don't need both sides hunting us. They used Haven's limited communications array to broadcast the data across neutral channels, medical journals, scientific databases, open networks where anyone could access it. The information spread quickly. Within weeks, they started hearing stories. A human doctor in coalition space used Lyra's research to cure a previously fatal disease. A scientist developed a new treatment for genetic disorders. Small victories, but victories nonetheless. And then something unexpected happened. 6 months after Ho and Lyra arrived on Haven, peace talks began. It wasn't because of the research data alone. The war had been grinding on for too long. Both sides were exhausted. Resources were depleted. Entire generations had grown up knowing nothing but conflict. But Lyra's data proved something important. It proved that humans weren't fundamentally incompatible. That cooperation was possible. That maybe, just maybe, peace was worth trying. The talks were slow. There were setbacks. Hardliners on both sides tried to sabotage the process. But gradually, carefully, the two empires started to find common ground. Ho watched the news broadcasts in the settlement's common area, surrounded by others who had given up on the war long ago. When the peace treaty was finally signed, People cheered. Some cried. After 30 years, it was over. "Did we do that?" Lyra asked. She was standing beside him, her hybrid features reflecting the light from the screen. "No, thousands of people did that. Millions. People who were tired of fighting. We just gave them a reason to hope. Hope, the most illogical and powerful human emotion. You're part human now, which means hope is your emotion too." Lyra smiled. "Yes, I suppose it is." That night Ho couldn't sleep. He got up and walked outside. The settlement was quiet. Lights glowed in windows. In the distance, he could hear children laughing. Lyra found him standing in their small garden, looking up at the stars. "Cannot sleep?" she asked. "Just thinking. About everything that's happened. About that medical bay where I was dying. About you standing by my bed making a choice that changed everything." Lyra moved beside him. "Do you regret any of it?" "Not 1 second, you." She was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke, and her voice was filled with certainty. "I gave up my position, my people, my entire civilization. I became something my society would consider an abomination. I can never go back to the life I had before." She turned to face him, taking both his hands in hers. "And I would do it again without hesitation, because you taught me the most important lesson any being can learn." "What's that?" "That existing is not the same as living. That following orders is not the same as making choices. That perfect logic means nothing without the chaos of hope and love and freedom." Her eyes, silver and bronze and beautiful, met his. "I gave up everything I had, and I gained everything that matters." Ho pulled her close. "I love you." "I love you too. It is completely illogical and completely perfect." They stood together under alien stars, two beings who should have been enemies, who had saved each other in ways that had nothing to do with medicine or military tactics. In the distance, Haven continued to grow. More refugees arrived every week, humans and others, people who had chosen peace over war, freedom over orders, hope over hatred. And at the center of it all, in a small home with a garden and a view of the sunset, Ho and Lyra built a life together. They healed the sick. They taught others. They proved every day that the barriers between species were nothing compared to the bonds of choice and love. Years later, when people asked Lyra why she had given up everything for a dying enemy soldier, she always gave the same answer. "He showed me that some choices transcend logic, that sometimes the illogical path leads to the most beautiful destination. He stood for freedom, for hope, for life, and I chose him because choosing him meant choosing myself." And when they asked Ho why he trusted an alien enemy enough to let her save him, he would smile and say, "She stood by my bed when I was dying. She gave up everything she had. She chose me when she could have chosen safety. How could I not trust her? How could I not love her? She taught me that humanity's greatest strength isn't our weapons or our stubbornness. It's our ability to inspire others to be more than they were, to choose connection over fear, to choose love over hate." Together, Lyra would add, taking his hand, "we chose each other, and that choice saved us both." In a galaxy slowly learning to heal from decades of war, their story became a legend. Not a tale of conquest or victory, but a reminder of what made humanity truly special. Not the ability to fight, but the ability to hope, to forgive, to love across impossible divides, to inspire others to be free. And in a small settlement on a peaceful world, two beings proved that truth every single day. Together,